From the safety of their vessel high above Terra, the Scifi crew watched in silence as the asteroid struck with unimaginable force. The planet, once a cradle of life teeming with colossal creatures, was now a landscape of fire and ash. The impact had sent shockwaves across continents, triggering volcanic eruptions and casting a shroud of darkness over the world below. Sage Zyrath, the leader of the mission, stood at the observation window, his gaze fixed on the desolate planet. The once vibrant greens and blues of Terra had been replaced by a sea of blackened earth and churning smoke. The dinosaurs, their grand experiment, were gone. Their reign ended in an instant.
"This is what we have wrought,"
Zyrath whispered, his voice heavy with sorrow.
"A world of death. A death world."
Beside him, the junior observer Kalen stared at the devastation, their crest feathers drooping in a display of deep sadness.
"We hoped to create life that would rise to greatness, but instead, we have brought nothing but destruction."
Zyrath nodded slowly, the weight of their actions pressing down on him.
"We were so focused on what could be, on the potential of our experiment, that we failed to see the cost. Now this world, once full of life and promise, lies in ruins. We have created a place where nothing can thrive, a world condemned to darkness and death."
Kalen's eyes filled with regret.
"Is there nothing that can be done? Have we truly erased all hope from this world?"
Zyrath placed a hand on Kalen's shoulder, his gaze never leaving the desolate planet below.
"What's done cannot be undone. Terra has been reset, and with it, everything that once lived here has been lost. But perhaps, in time, life will find a way to return. Perhaps from the ashes of this death world, something new might one day rise."
The silence between them was filled with the distant rumble of the dying planet. Zyrath knew that their actions would be remembered for the ages, not as creators of life, but as those who had brought about the end of a world. As the ship drifted away from the darkened globe, leaving Terra to its fate, Zyrath whispered a final mournful thought.
"May this world forgive us, if it ever lives again."
Millions of Exarion before the present day, the Scifi's vision for Terra began to take shape. High above the blue-green world, a Scifi vessel hovered silently, a testament to their unique fusion of organic and mechanical technology. The ship's exterior appeared rugged and natural, as though it had been grown from the very bones of Velocia itself. The hull, a blend of stone-like structures and sinewy, living tissue, pulsed faintly with life, making it seem as though the ship were a living creature suspended in the void. Inside, the vessel's interior was equally alive, with walls that breathed and consoles that responded to the touch of the Scifi scientists. These scientists, tall and elegant with their crests of brightly colored plumes, moved with a purposeful grace. Their large forward-facing eyes scanned the organic readouts, while their clawed hands adjusted settings on the bioengineered controls.
"We are prepared to commence the seeding,"
announced one of the senior scientists, a figure whose plumage had begun to pale with age, signifying the vast experience they carried. The council had long debated the introduction of life to Terra, and the decision had been made to begin with the dinosaurs, massive creatures designed to dominate the planet's ecosystem. These beings were the culmination of Scifi bioengineering, built to thrive in Terra's varied environments and, eventually, to evolve into sentient beings. With a simple gesture, the scientist initiated the process. From the vessel's living tendrils, seed pods were released, descending through Terra's atmosphere like falling stars. Each pod contained the genetic blueprints of a new life form, carefully crafted in the biolabs of Velocia. As they made contact with the planet's surface, the pods embedded themselves in the Earth, where they would begin the process of creating life. The Scifi watched with quiet anticipation. Within cycles of Kron, the first dinosaurs began to emerge from their primordial origins. Massive herbivores with long, muscular legs roamed the plains, while predatory giants hunted with precision. Terra, once a quiet world, now teemed with life, its landscape transformed by the presence of these new creatures. The scientists observed every detail, recording the growth, behavior, and impact of the dinosaurs on their environment. The Saranai, with their keen intelligence and deep understanding of evolutionary processes, knew that true progress would take time. Many Exarion would pass before the fruits of their labor could be fully judged. But as the few Kyra passed, small observations began to hint at challenges ahead. The dinosaurs, though physically impressive, showed little sign of the intellectual advancement the Saranai had hoped for. They were instinct-driven, focused on survival and dominance, with little inclination toward the higher thought process that might lead to sentience. The senior scientists remained patient.
Evolution is a slow and deliberate process,
they reminded the others.
We must give it the time it requires.
And so, the Saranai continued to watch, their hopes resting on the distant future. They trusted in the natural order they had set in motion, believing that one day, their creations would rise to the intellectual heights they envisioned. It had been over a Vorexarion and a quarter that Terra's dinosaurs thrived and evolved under the watchful gaze of the Saranai. From their living vessels, orbiting high above the planet, the scientists observed with increasing concern. What had once been a source of pride and optimism began to reveal itself as a deeply flawed experiment. The dinosaurs had indeed become the dominant force on Terra. Their immense size and strength made them the undisputed rulers of the planet's ecosystems. Herds of herbivores stretched across vast plains, their thunderous movements shaking the earth. Predators with their powerful limbs and razor-sharp claws stalked their prey with relentless efficiency. Yet for all their physical prowess, the dinosaurs remained bound by their instincts, driven by hunger, survival, and territorial disputes. One of the feathered sages, whose crest of plumes had faded to a soft gray with age, reviewed the latest reports from the observers stationed aboard the vessels. The data was comprehensive, detailing the behaviors, social structures, and environmental impacts of the dinosaurs. But what stood out, time and again, was the lack of progress towards sentience.
They are magnificent in form,
the sage mused aloud.
But their minds remain primitive, bound to earth by their instinct rather than lifted by thought.
A junior scientist, one of the younger members of the mission, spoke up hesitantly.
We have given them time, Sage. Perhaps they require more of it. Evolution is a long journey, after all.
The sage turned, their large eyes reflecting the dim glow of the organic displays.
Indeed, evolution is patient, but the signs we hoped to see, the beginnings of higher reasoning, the sparks of creativity and innovation, are absent. Even after so many Soroya, Exarion, even Vorexarion now, yet they have not moved beyond the most basic of survival behaviors.
The junior scientist, crest feathers subtly shifting in color to indicate their concern, asked,
What shall we do then? Shall we intervene? Guide their development?
The sage considered the suggestion, but ultimately shook their head.
Intervention would defeat the purpose of the experiment. We sought to observe natural evolution, to see if such beings could, on their own, ascend to sentience. If they cannot, it is not our place to force the matter.
As more Soroya passed, the Saranai continued to monitor the dinosaurs, but the hope that had once fueled their work began to wane. The dinosaurs remained creatures of instinct, with no sign of the intellectual advancement the Saranai had anticipated. Their societies were simple, their communication rudimentary, and their interactions driven solely by survival. The feathered sages convened, discussing the future of the experiment. There were those who argued for patience, suggesting that perhaps with more time, the dinosaurs might yet evolve in the desired direction. But the majority, weary of the centuries of waiting with little to show for it, began to question the viability of the project.
We must face the possibility that we have erred,
the sage admitted to the council.
These creatures, for all their grandeur, may never rise to the heights we hoped for. It is a difficult truth, but one we must accept.
Reluctantly, the Saranai began to consider alternatives. Some proposed starting anew with a different approach, while others suggested that perhaps Terra itself was not suited for the kind of evolutionary progress they desired. The debate raged on, but all the while, the dinosaurs continued their existence, unaware of the disappointment they had caused among their distant creators. The High Council of Velocia gathered in their grand chambers, a place where decisions that shaped the destiny of their species had made for countless Phyrexarion. The room, with its living walls and intricate carvings depicting the history of the Sarani, resonated with the gravity of the debate that was about to unfold. The feathered sages, each a leader of their respective clans and holders of immense wisdom, took their places around the circular table, their crests raised in anticipation. At the head of the council sat high-feathered sage Zyrath, the eldest among them. His once vibrant plumes now a pale white, a testament to the Soraya and a half he had witnessed. His eyes, still sharp and penetrating, scanned the faces of his fellow sages. To his left was feathered sage Lyara, known for her compassionate nature and deep connection to the natural world. Her feathers shimmered in soft greens and blues, reflecting her affinity with life. Across from her sat feathered sage Valyre, a stern and pragmatic leader, his crest a deep red, symbolizing his role as the keeper of history and law. Feathered sage Torin, a younger member whose vibrant yellow plumes spoke of his innovative spirit and optimism, completed the council. Zyrath began the session with a heavy sigh, the weight of his years evident in his voice.
We have gathered to discuss the future of Terra, a world that has been under our observation for over a Phyrexarion. The dinosaurs, our creation, have thrived, yet they have not progressed as we had hoped. The question before us is whether to continue this experiment or to bring it to an end.
Feathered sage Lyara was the first to speak, her voice filled with a quiet sorrow.
These creatures are, in a sense, our children. We brought them into existence, shaped their world, and watched them grow. To end their lives would be to sever a bond we have nurtured for so long. They may not have achieved sentience, but does that diminish their value? Life, sentient or not, is sacred.
Valyre's feathers bristled slightly as he responded.
We must not allow sentiment to cloud our judgment. The dinosaurs are nothing more than a failed experiment. They lack the intellectual capacity to rise above their instincts. Their continued existence on Terra serves no purpose other than to perpetuate their brutish dominance. We have a responsibility to guide evolution toward progress, and these creatures are a dead end.
Torin, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward, his eyes bright with thought. But are we not also responsible for the life we create? We set this experiment in motion with the goal of fostering sentience, of seeing life evolve beyond the primal and into the intellectual. If the dinosaurs cannot achieve this on their own, perhaps it is our duty to intervene, to steer their development in the right direction. Ending their lives without trying to correct our course feels premature. Zyrath nodded thoughtfully at Torin's words.
You raise a valid point, Torin. However, we must also consider the potential consequences of such intervention. To tamper further would create an imbalance, leading to unforeseen chaos. We must ask ourselves, is it ethical to end non-sentient life in the pursuit of a higher goal? And if we allow them to continue, are we not at risk of letting this experiment spiral out of control, as Valyre suggests?
Lyara, her voice gentle but firm, added,
There is also the question of what constitutes sentience. The dinosaurs may not have developed as we hoped, but they exhibit social behaviors, complex interactions, and even emotional responses. While they may not reach the level of sentience we aspire to, they are not devoid of value. Must we measure all life by the standard of intellectual achievement alone?
Valyre's eyes narrowed slightly.
We must. If we are to continue our legacy as the stewards of evolution, our ancestors survived and thrived through their ability to adapt, to think, to innovate. It is our duty to ensure that such traits are cultivated, not stifled by creatures that have no capacity for them. The ethical dilemma here is not about ending life, but about failing to advance life's potential. The council fell into a deep silence, each sage contemplating the arguments presented. Zyrath finally spoke, his voice a measured blend of all the wisdom in the room.
We have a profound responsibility, both to the life we have created and to the future of evolution on Terra. If we decide to end this experiment, it must be done with the understanding that we are making room for new possibilities, for a reset that may one day lead to the sentience we seek.
Torrens' crest lowered slightly, his earlier optimism tempered by the weight of the decision.
If we must end it, let it be done with respect and care. These creatures, though they have not fulfilled our hopes, have lived, struggled, and thrived. They deserve to be remembered, not as failures, but as a step in the long journey of evolution.
Lyara nodded in agreement, her eyes soft with emotion.
Let us ensure that whatever comes next is born from the lessons we have learned here.
Velir, ever pragmatic, added,
And let us also ensure that we do not repeat our mistakes. The next attempt, if any, must be approached with greater foresight, with a clearer understanding of the traits we wish to cultivate and how it will be accomplished.
Zyrath, seeing the consensus forming, concluded,
Then it is decided. We shall end this experiment, not out of failure, but out of a commitment to the future. Terra will be reset, and in time, future generations may choose to reseed it with new life. Life that carries forward the potential we have always sought.
With that, the decision was made. The Saranai began preparations to guide the asteroid toward Terra, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of what must be done. Yet, within this act of destruction, there was also a seed of hope, a hope that from the ashes, something new and greater might one day emerge. The High Council's decision weighed heavily on the Saranai as they prepared for the final phase of their experiment on Terra. The directive was clear. Reset the planet to allow for a new beginning, one that might eventually lead to the evolution of true sentience. Yet, the act of carrying out this decision was anything but simple. It required precision, a profound understanding of planetary mechanics, and a deep sense of responsibility. From their vessels, which now hovered in higher orbit above Terra, Sage Zyrath and his team began the delicate task of guiding an asteroid from the outer reaches of the solar system toward the planet. The asteroid, a massive body of rock and ice, had been selected for its size and trajectory, enough to cause a global reset, but not so large as to completely sterilize the planet. Zyrath, despite the burden of his years, took personal responsibility for overseeing the operation. His wisdom and experience were crucial in ensuring that the process was executed flawlessly. Standing beside him was Kaelin, a junior observer, eager to prove their worth, but humbled by the gravity of the task at hand. The asteroid's journey was slow and methodical, guided by the Saranai's organic technology. Tendrils of bioengineered material wrapped around the rock, pulling it gently but inexorably toward its destination. The process was painstaking, requiring adjustments at every stage to account for gravitational pulls, solar winds, and the intricate dance of celestial bodies. As the asteroid drew closer, the atmosphere aboard the Saranai vessel grew tense. Kaelin, their eyes wide with both awe and apprehension, monitored the displays that tracked the asteroid's descent. They turned to Zyrath, seeking reassurance in the sage's calm demeanor.
We have done all we can to ensure that this act, while destructive, will leave room for new life to emerge,
Zyrath said, his voice steady.
The dinosaurs, for all their strength, could not achieve the sentience we sought. But perhaps, in the future, a new form of life will rise to meet our hopes.
Kaelin nodded, though their thoughts were filled with the enormity of what they were about to witness. The asteroid entered Terra's atmosphere, glowing brightly as it descended. The impact, when it came, was cataclysmic. The planet shook under the force, sending shockwaves across continents and throwing debris high into the atmosphere. The dinosaurs, the once mighty rulers of Terra, were annihilated in an instant. their reign brought to a sudden and fiery end. Kalen watched in silence, their heart heavy as the planet was plunged into darkness, its surface charred and barren, with only the faintest echoes of the life that had once roamed its lands. But amidst the devastation, there was movement. A small, resilient mammal, no larger than a hand, emerged from the rubble. It scurried through the debris, instinct driving it to find shelter, to survive. This creature, insignificant in the grand scheme of the Saranai's experiment, nonetheless represented the enduring tenacity of life. Kalen noticed the tiny mammal and, filled with excitement, brought the discovery to the attention of Zyrath.
Sage, Zyrath, look, a survivor. It's small, but it's alive.
Zyrath, his gaze weary but steady, observed the creature for a moment before speaking.
A mammal,
he said softly.
It is indeed resilient, but do not place too much hope in it. Mammals are simple creatures, their brains too limited for the development of true sentience. It is an anomaly, a survivor of the cataclysm, nothing more.
Kalen, though disappointed, accepted the sage's assessment. They returned to their station, continuing to monitor the aftermath of the impact. But Zyrath, even as he dismissed the mammal's significance, could not entirely shake the feeling that life on Terra still held untold possibilities. As the Saranai completed their observations and prepared to depart, they left behind a planet reset, its future now uncertain. The dinosaurs, their once grand experiment, were gone, but in their place, life, though small and seemingly insignificant, endured, and with it, the faintest whisper of what might one day come to pass. The Saranai outpost, deep in the vastness of dark space, was a quiet and solitary place. It had been many exarions since the High Council had last turned its gaze to Terra, a planet once regarded as a failed experiment, reset by the cataclysmic impact of an asteroid. Over the millennia, the outpost had become little more than a relic, a silent observer of the cosmos, forgotten by all but a few of the most diligent scholars. Aroth, the lead researcher and direct descendant of the legendary bioengineers of Velocia, was among the few who still found purpose in the ancient outpost. His crest of deep indigo feathers, tinged with silver, marked him as one of the older Saranai still in service. He had spent much of his life studying the faint signals and whispers that echoed through space, most of them little more than the background noise of the universe. But today, something unusual had caught his attention.
Strange?
Aroth murmured, his angular eyes narrowing as he adjusted the organic controls in front of him. The console, a living entity in itself, pulsed gently under his touch, responding to his commands with a subtle hum. Beside him, his younger colleague Pluma, a bright and inquisitive observer with a crest of vibrant orange, leaned in closer, her curiosity piqued.
What is it, Aroth?
Pluma asked, her feathers shifting with excitement. She had been trained by the best minds on Velocia, and her keen intellect had already earned her a place on this distant outpost, though she still lacked the patience of her elder. Aroth turned to her, his gaze serious.
I'm picking up signals, radio transmissions to be precise. They're originating from Terra.
Pluma blinked in surprise.
Terra? But that's the death world, isn't it? That one of our ancestors reset after the dinosaurs failed to evolve? There shouldn't be anything there. At least, nothing intelligent.
That's what we've always believed,
Aroth replied, his voice laced with intrigue.
Yet these signals are unmistakable. They are not just random noise, they're structured pattern. Someone, or something, is transmitting from Terra.
Pluma's feathers fluttered with excitement.
But how? Terra was deemed insignificant, a place where no sentient life existed. Could it be that something has changed?
Aroth nodded slowly, his mind racing through the possibilities.
It seems that in the many exarions since we last visited Terra, life has not only persisted but has also advanced far beyond our expectations. These signals suggest not just intelligence, but advanced intelligence.
The realization struck them both like a shockwave. Terra, the planet once written off as a failure, was now broadcasting signals across the stars. The implications were profound.
We must investigate this further,
Pluma said, her voice filled with determination.
If life on Terra has evolved to this extent, it could change everything we know about evolution, about sentience itself.
Aroth agreed, his own excitement tempered by the gravity of the situation.
Indeed. We will need to organize a research mission to Terra. We'll pass through and collect observations, gathering as much data as we can. The Council must be informed, but we must also ensure that our findings are thorough. This could be one of the most significant discoveries in our history.
As they prepared to delve deeper into the signals, Aroth activated one of the stronger transmissions. The speakers of the organic console crackled to life, and suddenly, the outpost was filled with a smooth, melodic sound, something entirely foreign to the Saranai. Pluma's eyes widened as she listened.
What is that?
Aroth, equally fascinated, tilted his head as the music flowed through the room.
It sounds pleasant. Perhaps some form of communication?
The music played on, the gentle rhythms of smooth jazz filling the chamber. For a moment, both Aroth and Pluma were entranced by the alien sound, a stark contrast to the silence of space. Then, as the music faded, a voice followed, clear, articulate, and speaking in a language that, while unfamiliar, carried a tone of sophistication and ease.
Experience the comfort of the new Stride Star collection, where elegance meets durability. Your feet deserve the best. Stride Star, walk the earth.
Pluma blinked, her crest feathers shifting to a puzzled pattern.
What is this Stride Star? And why do they need something for their feet?
Aroth, equally perplexed, replayed the transmission, focusing on the strange terms.
It seems to be some form of protection or adornment for their feet. But why would they need such a thing? Our feet are naturally tough, capable of traversing the harshest environments without injury. What could make theirs so vulnerable that they require this Stride Star?
The two Saranai exchanged glances, their minds racing with confusion and curiosity. Aroth's gaze narrowed as he considered the implications.
It seems that these beings have developed not only intelligence, but also a culture that requires protection for something as fundamental as their feet. We need to investigate further.
Pluma, her initial surprise giving way to curiosity, smiled.
This mission to Terra might reveal much more than we anticipated. If they have concepts like Stride Star and require protection for their feet, we have a lot to learn.
Aroth nodded, his excitement now tinged with a sense of wonder.
Indeed, we'll prepare to embark on this journey immediately. Terra may hold the answers to questions we've pondered for Exarion. The progress of this world could reveal much about the nature of life and evolution, perhaps in ways we never imagined.
As they continued to prepare for their journey, the strains of smooth jazz still playing softly in the background, Aroth and Pluma couldn't shake the feeling that Terra, the once dismissed death world, was about to change the course of their civilization forever. And so, with a sense of wonder and anticipation, they began their preparations for a journey that would lead to unexpected discoveries. The docking bay of the Saranai research vessel hummed with life as Aroth and Pluma made their final preparations for departure. The ship, a blend of living rock and sinewy organic matter, stood ready to embark on its journey to Terra. Tendrils of bioengineered material pulsed faintly along the ship's surface, responding to the energy of the crew as they moved about, performing last-minute checks. Aroth, his indigo-feathered crest shimmering under the bioluminescent lights, adjusted a control panel embedded in the ship's hull. His movements were deliberate, the product of many Exarions spent perfecting his craft. Beside him, Pluma's vibrant orange feathers flared with excitement, her eyes wide with anticipation.
Aroth?
Pluma began, her voice tinged with both curiosity and a hint of nervousness.
Do you think Terra will be anything like we expect?
Aroth paused, considering the question.
Expectations are a dangerous thing, Pluma. We've studied the signals, analyzed the transmissions, and yet we still know so little about what we're about to encounter. Terra has evolved in many ways we could never have predicted.
That alone should caution us against making assumptions. Pluma nodded, her feathers settling into a calmer pattern.
You're right, of course, but it's hard not to wonder. We've seen glimpses of their culture, heard their music, and even witnessed their peculiar interest in protecting their feet with something called stride star. It's also foreign.
Aroth smiled softly. Foreign indeed. The Terrans seem to have developed a culture that revolves around concepts we've never considered. Protection for their feet, for instance, something so fundamental yet so different from our own way of life. It suggests a level of fragility, but also an ingenuity we must respect.
Pluma's eyes gleamed with interest. And their technology. We know they've advanced far beyond the basic tools we once imagined, but what if they've discovered something that even we haven't considered? What if they've found a way to harness their environment in ways we can't yet comprehend?
Aroth's expression grew thoughtful. That's precisely why this mission is so important. Terra may hold answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask. Their progress could offer us new perspectives on the nature of life, intelligence, and even the cosmos itself. But we must approach them with caution and humility. We are not here to impose our understanding, but to learn and observe.
Pluma tilted her head, her feathers shifting to a pattern that signaled deep contemplation. Do you think they'll recognize us if we make contact? Do you think they'll see us as we are?
Aroth's gaze softened. That, Pluma, is one of the great unknowns. The Terrans are intelligent, that much is clear, but how they perceive us, beings from a distant world, remains to be seen. It's possible they'll view us as something beyond their comprehension, or perhaps they'll see us as equals, fellow explorers in this vast universe.
Pluma sighed softly, her anticipation tempered by a growing sense of responsibility. I suppose that's what makes this journey so exhilarating and so daunting at the same time. We're stepping into the unknown, and we have no idea what we'll find or how it will change us.
Aroth nodded, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. That's the essence of exploration, Pluma. The unknown is both our greatest challenge and our greatest reward. Whatever we discover on Terra, it will undoubtedly reshape our understanding of the universe, and perhaps even ourselves. The ship's tendrils retracted into the hull as the final preparations were completed. The vessel hummed with life, ready to embark on its long journey to the distant world that had once been deemed insignificant. As the ship began to rise, Pluma looked out through the viewport at the stars beyond.
We're ready, Aroth. Whatever Terra has in store for us, we're ready.
Aroth smiled, feeling the weight of the journey ahead, but also the excitement that came with it. Then let's see what the Terrans have to teach us. The stars await. The ship's engines pulsed with energy, and with a final hum, it launched into the void, leaving the safety of their outpost behind. Aroth and Pluma watched as their homeworld of Velocia faded into the distance, their minds already drifting toward the mysteries that awaited them on Terra. In a dimly lit conference room at the heart of a major research institute, a group of scientists and astronomers sat around a large table. The walls were lined with screens displaying various data, charts, and images, all focused on one particular object, Oumuamua. The room buzzed with quiet conversation, the air thick with a mix of excitement and skepticism. Dr. Evelyn Harris, a leading astrophysicist with short-cropped hair and sharp eyes, stood at the head of the table, holding a laser pointer. She tapped it against her palm, waiting for the room to settle. When the chatter finally died down, she began. All right, everyone, let's get to it. We're here to discuss the latest findings and theories about Oumuamua, the interstellar object that's captured our attention since it was first detected in 2017. She clicked a button, and an image of Oumuamua, elongated and tumbling through space, appeared on the main screen. The room's attention focused entirely on the strange cigar-shaped object. Dr. Rajesh Patel, an astronomer known for his calm demeanor, leaned forward, his brow furrowed. The latest data from the Pan-STARRS telescope suggests that Oumuamua's acceleration as it left the solar system doesn't match what we'd expect from a typical asteroid or comet. It's almost as if it's being propelled by something. A murmur spread through the room. The idea had been floated before, but it still sent ripples of intrigue through the scientific community. Dr. Lara Mendel, an expert in extraterrestrial research, crossed her arms, a skeptical smile on her lips. So, are we finally going to address the elephant in the room? The possibility that Oumuamua might not just be a piece of interstellar debris, that it could be something else. Evelyn nodded, acknowledging the unspoken tension. We've all heard the theories, ranging from it being an unusual natural object to it potentially being an artificial craft. Harvard's Avi Loeb has been particularly vocal about the latter. He argues that the object's shape, its peculiar acceleration, and lack of outgassing are consistent with something constructed, not naturally formed. Dr. Mendel raised an eyebrow. You mean he thinks it's an alien probe? The room felt silent for a moment, the weight of the possibility hanging in the air. Evelyn glanced around the table, gauging the reactions. Dr. Michael Zoe, a planetary scientist, cleared his throat. Look, I'm all for exploring every hypothesis, but we need to stay grounded. There's a lot we still don't understand about Oumuamua. Its behavior could be due to a number of factors we haven't considered yet. Maybe a reaction to solar radiation, or a form of outgassing we haven't detected. We should be careful about jumping to conclusions. Rajesh nodded in agreement. Michael's right. We need more data, but let's not dismiss the possibility outright. If it's not a natural object, that has huge implications. We should be prepared to explore every angle, no matter how unlikely it may seem. Evelyn clicked to the next slide, showing a graph of Oumuamua's trajectory. Our window of opportunity to study Oumuamua is closing. It's already on its way out of the solar system, and we may never see it again. We need to decide what we want to focus on, whether we push for more detailed analysis of the data we have, or propose new methods for tracking similar objects in the future. Lara leaned back, her gaze thoughtful. If there's even a remote chance that Oumuamua is something more than a rock, we owe it to ourselves and to humanity to explore that possibility. This could be the most significant discovery of our time. The room filled with a tense silence, each scientist lost in their own thoughts. The idea that they might be on the verge of discovering evidence of extraterrestrial technology was thrilling, but also daunting. It challenged everything they knew, everything they were comfortable with. Evelyn finally broke the silence. All right, here's what we'll do. We'll split into teams. One will focus on refining our current models, seeing if there's any natural explanation we've missed. The other will work on a speculative approach, exploring the possibility of artificial origins. We'll meet back here in a week to compare findings. As the scientists began to discuss logistics and form teams, the conversation grew animated. Oumuamua, once just a blip on their radar, had become a source of endless fascination, and possibly the key to answering one of humanity's oldest questions. Are we alone in the universe? As they filed out of the room, Evelyn paused by the screen, gazing out one last time at the mysterious object. Whatever you are, she whispered, we're going to figure you out.